Hello everyone, my name is Vanda and I'm a member of the Abolition 2000 Youth Network, and I also work for the Move the Nuclear Weapons Money campaign. And to answer the questions about how the world, the post-COVID world will look like, I've prepared a little presentation just so you wouldn't have to stare at my face the whole time. So let me share my screen. All right, so I've basically split the big question into 3 or 4 subtopics, including the conclusion. First, we'll be dealing with the short-term effects, and then long-terms, and then how that will affect our work and how we work. All right, so what the world might be like by the time of the NPT RefCon next year, which is, to my knowledge, scheduled to be in January of next year. So well, hopefully the spread of coronavirus will be tamed by then, and the NPT RefCon will actually be able to happen. But also I'm hoping that it'll be the time to evaluate these unprecedented times and learn from the mistakes, or see what we've been doing well and good, and to just learn from the situation in general. And also it'll be after the US presidential elections, so there might be some changes. But before trying to guess what the world might look like in, 8 months, let's take a brief look at what the world looks like right now. So many experts are saying that the risk of nuclear war is no higher than during Cold War. And I mean, there is 100 seconds to midnight on the doomsday clock left, which is closer than ever. Also, the US withdrew from the INF Treaty last summer. The New START is supposed to expire in February next year. And with everyone busy with Corona, the North Korea tested what they called a super large multiple rocket launcher at the end of March. And also the US tested their hypersonic missile a few days before that. So one might say that COVID-19 could not come at a worse time. But let's take a look at what's changed so far because of Corona. So to some, it might seem that with coronavirus, the world has stopped. But I actually think that it's exactly the opposite, at least in terms of our work for nuclear abolition, because coronavirus has demonstrated the need for change from the focus on military security to a focus on human security. That's for 2 reasons. One, the enormous defense budgets were practically useless in containing the virus. And 2, just the simple idea that money spent on nuclear weapons or arms in general should be instead spent on healthcare systems, research and prevention has been picked up by many civil society organizations and campaigns. I mean, how come that governments keep telling us they don't have the money to help its citizens while they keep pouring billions and billions of dollars into weapons that are not even meant to be used, and hopefully they will never be used? So I'd like to mention 2 campaigns that have mentioned this. One is the Scrap Weapons campaign. And those guys have found out that the cost of 1 Trident missile with nuclear warhead capacity could cover the cost of 17 million face masks. And even our own Move the Nuclear Weapons Money campaign has been pointing exactly the same things out for a few years now. Move the Money has been saying, calling for cutting nuclear weapons budgets and reinvesting the money to address the pandemic, to end poverty, to protect the climate, to ensure everyone gets proper education. So the ideas and the facts are here, but now, with everything that's going on, we can hope that governments will finally realize this and realize the importance of human security over military security, and will act on this. And by the time of the NPT RefCon in January, they might possibly start reflecting on this. And also, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for a global ceasefire. And while many parties or states have expressed their acceptance for this goal, there are many ongoing conflicts, and some are even intensifying, which is bringing me to the next point of long-term effects. As we realized, there are no borders that Corona couldn't cross. It is not a single country's issue, it's a global pandemic. And a global problem requires a global solution or a global ceasefire. No country can counter a disease, climate change, or breach of security alone without proper research and without the help of others. I guess what I'm trying to say here, to put this in more eloquent words, we must act multilaterally, not unilaterally. And I think that bigger and bigger parts of the world are now, thanks to Corona, realizing that. What we've also learned is that we need to trust scientists, and I really can't stress that enough. They have warned us. The World Health Organization has warned us. A solution would have been to listen to them, to follow their suggestions, and not to call it fake news, to not cut its funding, and then cover one's inability with lies. And let's bear in mind that the impact of a deployment of a nuclear bomb would be much, much worse than what we're facing now with the coronavirus. So when scientists are saying that nuclear weapons are harming the planet, why do we keep ignoring them? Isn't that just ridiculous? Plus, some are also pointing out that the same way we didn't have a plan for what happens with Corona, do we really have a proper plan to what happens if there's a nuclear attack? Another long-term effect that I want to point out here is that people have power. And I'd like to mention the Czech Republic, which is where I'm from and where I'm currently based, because the Czech Republic is now known for dealing with coronavirus pretty well. But let me just say that it is the people who deserve the biggest credit for any of our achievements, not the government. From day one, people were sewing face masks, they were volunteering in hospitals everywhere, and just helping with whatever they could, while the government didn't have enough equipment. Nurses in hospitals are still working on rather low wages. So if people can come together and have the power to overcome something this big as the coronavirus, we certainly do have the power to influence other things as well. And that's bringing me to how Corona will affect our work. As everyone's realizing, we learn how to do things online. This interview is just many of the examples of that. And while it's certain that we cannot replace all of our activities with virtual meetings, there are many perks to them. A, we're saving money, which is especially great for students. B, we're leaving no carbon footprint behind, which is especially great for the planet. And with online campaigns and online meetings, we can invite more people to the virtual table, and the outreach in general can be much wider. A good example of that is that Move the Nuclear Weapons Money was supposed to organize a side event for the NPT RepCon, which obviously got cancelled. So instead, we did a webinar, and the outreach for the people who saw the webinar is in hundreds of people, which is something that would not have been possible if we were in a little room at the UN. So that's a good progress. Also, in the recent years, we have seen a bigger emphasis being put on youth in peace building and security, which I absolutely applaud. And now with so many events being held online, there's been an increase of youth-led and youth-focused events, which is absolutely amazing. And again, to give you an example, Abolition 2000 Youth Network is organizing 2 amazing webinars or events that were originally also supposed to be a side event for the NPT. And now we can have around 15 speakers, we can reach hundreds of young people around the world, which is absolutely fantastic. So I hope that in the post-COVID world, youth will continue being invited to the table, that youth will be listened to, but mainly that the current policymakers will act upon the ideas. Because I believe that young people, we're not weighted down as much by the what had happened. We've got more energy, we're more enthusiastic, and I think the world, especially now, really, really needs that. So to bring all of my thoughts to conclusion, I believe that in every situation, in every bad situation, there is a silver lining. And I found this really cool picture on Twitter for that sums it up pretty nicely. So I say that we should learn from Corona. And also, or especially because combating Corona is in a way similar to combating nuclear arsenals and potential nuclear war. First, you start with awareness. We listen to the scientists and their recommendations. We show people how to protect themselves. We stay home, we wash our hands, we wear the face masks. We ask our governments to put our health above the economy for once. And our governments then, because they see it's a good idea, they act on that. And with everyone chipping in, the civil society, the scientists, the governments, we're finally seeing the virus being tamed and slowly disappearing. Now we can apply the same thing onto nuclear abolition. We again start with awareness and education. We spread the word. We listen to what the experts and scientists have to say. We educate people how to protect the planet and ultimately themselves. We educate people on divestment, ethical investment, governmental spending on nuclear arsenals, and how that money should be spent instead. And then again, with everyone chipping in, the civil society creating awareness and divestment on personal and institutional level, the scientists backing everything up with the confirmed data, and governments who are supposed to represent citizens should be acting on this. And last but not least, the governments putting the citizens before any stupid deterrence strategy. We can then see nuclear abolition. So to really conclude this, there is a silver lining to Corona. It's clearly an unfortunate challenge that we all have to pass, but now it's here. So let's pause, let's learn from it, and let the situation make us better. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.